Okay. So good evening, everyone. I guess Shaurya's camera is off. Anyway, let me introduce myself first. Myself, Atrey. I'm the collaborator for the air pollution project going on in our organization. Okay. Now this event is basically on inter-team uh, marathon, reasoning marathon. Now right now we have three teams. That is, one is Parinati, the second one is represented by Shaurya, and the third one is represented by Ishita. Okay, now starting with the reasoning marathon. Now, what is this? This is like a marathon race where you get points, okay, for whatever you participate in. Okay, now because this is reasoning marathon and because this event is based on air pollution, so basically you will be reasoning and discussing about air pollution. That is your topic in general. Okay, now to start with the rules first. I hope Shaurya and Ishita are there right now. So
Yes,
that
I'm here.
okay, okay, so that I can begin with the rules. Okay, so now as the rule goes, you three are representing three teams. Okay, let's call you team 1, 2, and 3, respectively Parinati, Shaurya, and Ishita. Okay, now the rule goes like I'll pick any one of you, that is one of your teams, to first pose a question to the other two. Now the question should be double. Okay. So now the questions should be double-ended. That means the questions should not be direct, as in such asking for a meaning or a description. The question should be as of where you can discuss. Okay, two people can discuss maybe on the other ends of the question. Okay, and while discussing, they'll be coming either towards a certain conclusion, or maybe we'll get new perspectives from their discussion. Okay, now and you will be marked on the way you pose a question and on the way you discuss the your perspectives, your views on the question. Okay, now so suppose in the first round there will be three rounds. So on the first round, I'll suppose ask team 1 to pose a question and team 2 and 3 will discuss. Each of the rounds will have only 10 minutes to cover. Okay, so whatever you have to discuss, both of you can go at simultaneous times, like one after the other. If anyone has any valid point against the speaker, they can raise a hand or maybe just turn on their mic and start speaking. And so now first round takes 10 minutes. So you will be given 10 minutes to pose your views, both of you, alongside. And the second round will start after a buffer of 5 minutes, because during the second round, the second team, suppose the second team has to prepare questions to be posed to the first and third team. Clear? And in the last round, that is the third round, the third team will pose a question to team number 1 and 2. So each rounds will be of 10 minutes each, and you'll be scored on the way you pose your questions, the relevance of your questions with your topic, and how well you discuss your views and your perspectives on the question. Okay, is that clear?
Yeah, understood.
Okay, do you have any questions before we start?
I do not. So,
Okay,
sorry,
Shaurya,
Ashita.
Nishita.
Yeah, I'm here. Just give me a second.
No, I'm good. I think.
Okay.
So I'll be starting with the first question, right?
Yeah, let's start serially only. That makes more sense. So let's start serially. You'll be posing the first question, and Shaurya and Ishita, you both have to discuss.
Okay.
Is Shaurya back? Until Shaurya gets back, Parinati, are you ready with your question?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Ishita, we can start once Shaurya joins in as well, because you and Shaurya are the ones who are going to. Acha, he left the meeting.
Where did Shaurya go? What happened?
Maybe
Uh,
he's joining again, but I'll give him a call.
yes, please. Thank you.
His net went out. He's joining again. Posted a message on the group.
Parinati, is he joining back anytime soon? Okay.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. मेरी लाइट चली गई थी. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
जी. Okay. Could
Okay,
you?
so
हाँ, मैं I'll answer. Adri?
yeah.
Question.
So you're visible as well as you're audible.
Great. A question could you repeat? Then I'll answer ना एक बार.
Yeah, question was not asked yet because you were not here.
अच्छा हाँ, पूछ लो.
So do I need to repeat the rules with you or you're fine with
Rules
them?
I'm aware, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So we are starting with the rounds. Okay. So this is round 1 where Parinati team 1 asked the question and you both discuss team 2 Shaurya and team 3 Ishita. Okay. Okay. Go.
All right. So, before I put out my question, I think we all are pretty much aware what air pollution is. It is basically the release of pollutants into the air, and pollutants with not like just pollutants, the pollutants which are detrimental to human health and the planet as a whole. So, like most of the air pollution, it comes from energy use and production. Like natural causes contribute to around less than 10% of the total air pollution that is being caused. Most of it is due to the human activities that are being done. So, in the same regard, my question to Shaurya and Ishla would be that is air pollution mainly a local problem which can be, concise to a particular area, or can it travel long distance?
Okay, so I'll go with my part of the answer first. Right. So this I mean, so problem of course is a global problem, right? Now the point is over here is, while we are solving the issue, that is where we have two sort of solutions. One is a very wide perspective, like you can call it a macro perspective, let's say, like a country wise or even a state wise, plan for it. And one is a local micro perspective, like a, let's say, locality, a neighborhood, like district kind of perspective, right? So this is actually, so it's like we have been seeing word like local and like things like that, right? So that is where, like, even when we had the first Rio de Janeiro summit, which is considered one of the summit which set the entire global agenda for climate change, right? So back in the 20th century, even then we had this concept of having separate local plans for it, and which form a bigger entire national plan. Problem basically because again air pollution travels. Like we see whenever the problem with Delhi happens around Diwali or like around the crop burning, when they are being burned seasons, that time we see our surrounding regions also get a lot of pollution. At least the quality declines because again it's air, right? So it keeps on moving and traveling. The It's a global phenomenon, it's a global problem, and which needs to be solved at like a combination of a micro and a macro perspective.
Okay, I differ a little bit on with Shaurya. My perspective is that air pollution has a lot to do with the microclimatic region, because I live in Vrindavan, which is 200 kilometers away from Delhi, and the AQI here at best goes up to 75, but the AQI of Delhi usually reaches 300. So yes, it does travel, as Shaurya said, when the weather is as such, when the winds are there and everything, but I believe it is more of a microclimatic problem. And even in Delhi, if I lived in the university area, North Campus, for quite some time, and compared to the rest of Delhi, the air there was much better because it is a more of a forested region. So the pollution levels were controlled, the temperature was controlled. So I believe, answering your question, Parinati, that it is more of a it is a problem at the global level because fossil fuels are burning all throughout the world. But coming down to the a more micro perspective, it is more of a micro issue because some regions in the same locality, in the same region, will have a better air quality while others will not, depending on the industries that are there, depending on the foresting that is there, and of course the wind pattern also of the area. It depends. So I believe that it is a micro problem.
Right. No, I just had a small point of clarification on my side. When you say like there are certain variations, isn't it obvious? Isn't it a very common fact that even though minor scale variations do exist, like individual localities may, if you take out the AQI of the entire situation of Delhi or of India, or like of an entire particular geographic region, that gets affected by these micro levels, and like the increase affects it too higher while taking out the mean than a drop does, because a drop isn't that high. A drop is just from 300 to 270 to 80, but an increase is from 75 to 300. So when we're taking out the mean, or like any statistical average which gets affected by extreme values, wouldn't it such an increase have a very large effect compared to what a small drop might have?
I did not get your question, but I think you're saying कि एक average out हो जाता है कोई region में ज़्यादा
I
ये
think the effect of an increase, like ज़्यादा होने का, has more effect, on the average than less value has.
is a statement or a question? Get
It's a
you.
question. It's a question. Why don't you think so?
I don't understand the question once again, please.
Okay, so I'm just saying because you said na it's a micro perspective, like it's a
Hmm.
micro based problem, right? So
Yeah.
I'm saying ki, but this fact exists. So what do you think? And do you still believe it's a micro perspective, knowing that, knowing this fact I just told you, ki ye zyada, if the variation is higher in the upper side, then that causes a much more change to the average than it being slightly on the lower side. Do
No,
you
I
change your
don't.
perspective at all?
Still believe it is a micro problem. Depending on the wind pattern, air pollution does travel. Like it happens during the winter time in Delhi. If Haryana and Punjab chooses to burn its crop residue, at least the CM Kejriwal says that pollution travels to the area, to the Delhi region. So because the wind pattern of that period, considering a jet stream movement at that time, it does travel, but otherwise, if we look at it, it is because I said that I live 200 kilometers away from Delhi, and the region has the same climate, same weather pattern. And still, our AQI is 75, Delhi has around 200 on an average, I believe. So it is a big difference. So I still believe that it's more of a micro thing than a macro.
Right.
I don't understand the words micro and macro. Aren't we talking local, hyper local, and global?
Kind of so.
We are.
Yes, sir. I think.
Might I interject? Prayang, you being the audience of this, you might also pose questions to the people who are discussing,
Sure, sure.
if you want. Okay. So, I guess, do you have any cross questions to ask Shaurya or Ishita to each other?
No, I asked the question I had. So.
No,
Okay,
I
Ishita.
understand Saurabh's point of view, so it's okay.
So I have a question to Ishita. May I?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You might proceed.
Okay. So my question is, uh, Ishita, the air pollution being, whether the air pollution is because of the impact is local, hyper local, or beyond, local. Isn't it dependent on the kind of particulate matter we are talking about?
Yes,
Um,
to a great
but
extent, yes. That's why I said that it is a micro problem. That
can you elaborate what that means?
sir, when during winter, when the crop residue is burnt, usually the pollutant is mostly ash and particulate matter. So it travels, or it even if it does not travel, that creates a heavy load in the air, and that creates the pollution. So it is a local thing. These things will not travel to a very far off region. It will remain confined in a particular area. So I believe it
How
has
much is that area? No, I'm not quite getting it.
Uh, Sir, if I talk about the winter situation in Delhi, usually the northern belt uh, up to our not Aravallis, which is the mountain range that we have in Delhi. The Delhi Ridge mountain area, the area that covers, pollution remains restricted to that. That is up to western UP and covers area of Rajasthan and Haryana and Punjab. It remains up to that only because the wind area, the wind circulation is only up to that region. So, depending on the particulate matter and depending on the area, the climate is common. It will remain till that only. So, it is a microwave.
So what are the factors that determine whether it is, how far is the impact of air pollution?
So, depending on the climatic issues like the wind pattern, the rainfall pattern, and the moisture and humidity of the area, and the pollutant matter. If we are releasing carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide into the environment, it has the potential to reach the higher levels of environment. It will go up to the stratosphere and it will go on beyond. So that will create a pollution for the entire globe. But if we are releasing PM 2.5, etc., it will stay localized. It will ultimately settle down somewhere or the other. It won't go beyond the troposphere, and it won't go beyond the area that is depending on the geographical factors like Delhi in the Delhi region up to what is the name of the up to Delhi Ridge, the area that is covered. Only till that, I think it is Aravalli mountain range that goes up to Delhi. Only till that area it stays, then fine.
Okay. Um, I have quite a few things to say about what you've said because some of these things are not scientific, but I will restrict myself to again the question that what makes something go beyond locals. You're saying that it depends on climatic conditions, it depends on the humidity, the wind pattern, and the nature of the particulate matter. So carbon dioxide is not a particulate matter. It is the it is the molecules in the air.
That is why I
It's
said
it's a
travel upwards, it will go to a larger area. But particulate matter like PM 2.5, etc., they will stay localized. That is what I'm saying.
right. How local? Again, that depends on the wind pattern, right?
That depends on the geographical features that we have around the area, the humidity, the rainfall pattern, and the wind pattern.
So every time Punjab has the burning of um, what do they burn? Stubble burning.
So it
Um,
does not travel to Himachal Pradesh. It does not travel to, it comes up to Delhi, it comes up to Western UP region, but it will not cross up to regions of Banaras, etc. Because they're confined, they are demarcated by the Aravalli ranges that we have around Delhi. Particulate matter will stay confined here. The Himachal region is surrounded by Shivalik, so wind will not travel to that side. It gets redirected, so it will stay confined. But of course, carbon dioxide will travel to a larger area because it is
is
not.
it so? What is the height of Aravali?
Sir, I think the highest the range is from 600 meters to I think 1000.
So you're saying particulate matter is not able to go beyond 1,000 meters of
So
height.
because it will encounter different humidity regions. So it will definitely drop down after it cannot travel to greater extent. It cannot in the vertically it cannot go up because it is heavier than rest of the molecules that we have that air pollution has, and because it will also encounter different regions with different humidities. It will settle down with water vapor, it will turn into clouds, etc. So it will settle down, it won't go far in.
What determines the wind patterns? Are you familiar with that?
So many things. The first thing will be the pressure differences that we have, the temperature differences, the jet streams that are ongoing. These things, and also the geographical regions. We have orographic rainfall. So these things will determine the wind pattern.
What is orographic rainfall?
So when water vapor, when cloud, any cloud encounters a mountain region, it gets restricted, and as it rises along with the mountain and reaches the upper layers of the atmosphere, it gets condensed further and rainfall happens. Like
Okay,
Rajasthan is a rain shadow region because Aravalli is restricted and rainfall happens on the western side, does not go to the east. Rainfall happens on the eastern side, does not go to the western side. So a desert formed over there. So that is because orographic rainfall, our monsoon does not reach
right.
Rajasthan.
So that's the role that Aravallis are playing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the question is, um, isn't air pollution in itself causing the temperature of that particular land to get blocked and causing a higher temperature? So isn't air pollution in a way also affecting the climatic condition?
Yes, sir, it is. It is
So
creating
then,
a microclimatic restrictions for many places, especially Delhi.
yeah. So and isn't climatic condition also responsible for the wind pattern?
Uh, so the factors that I talked about, like pressure, pressure does get affected, but other things do not.
Okay. Okay, so should I interject?
Yes.
Yes, please.
True.
Right. Okay. So I'll start from the top. Starting on this point about wind patterns. So what, as well as I have read in geography, we have two types of wind patterns when we talk about, right. One are permanent wind states, which are called jet stream, permanent wind uh, patterns, and one is the temporary or like which keep on shifting. Right. So we have various permanent. So in India, like when we study monsoon, also we see that there are eastern permanent wind. I'm forgetting the exact name, and western, right? The exact area, so Delhi is a very special area when it comes to this, because like the rainfall in Delhi happens at the place where the eastern and the western currents actually coincide. They actually meet at Delhi, right? So, and like we have this concept of cyclonic disturbances, western cyclonic disturbances, which come in from the Mediterranean region, from Europe. So while they are coming in, that is part of why Delhi area and this part gets rainfall, and as well as by the western coast of India. Like we had that cyclone recently, right? So why that happens is because of the western cyclonic disturbance which come in from the warm areas, because again pressure and temperature. Now, as you also mentioned correctly about how global warming also affects. So basically, it's a circular thing, like this thing leads to that, and that thing again leads to this thing, because all these things lead to temperature rise, and temperature rise again, temperature difference imbalance again leads to more of those things. So that's the part. And like what particulate matter. So we have three types of particulate matter: PM10, 2.5, and zero point 0.1, if I'm not wrong. So out of this, 10 is the one is very heavy. 2.5 is basically nothing but like ash, vehicle exhaust. So that's not that is like normal pollutants for the most part. 10 is just very heavy. So 10 is the mostly the one which forms the smog part. Like we see around Delhi, the smog thing sets in, and we can't see, because that is like very heavy particulate matter, which, and that only goes away when rain happens, because rain actually breaks the connection between the matter and the air holding it, and like the particle matter is dissolved and is like falls down. All these things happen. 2.5 and point 1 is so minute. Even our filters today, like even if you buy an air filter, I have two at home, they don't filter point 1 particle matter. They only filter 2.5 till 2.5. Point 1 is it's called ultra fine dust, and it said like 90% of our home uh, air like has ultra fine dust because of the factors which we have. So point over here is like that point, that 10 PM10 does not move that much, but 2.5 does. And it's also about because anything that happens in one area ultimately affects the other area, any other area. So you might see, look, it's okay, it's only happening at this particular place. But what we are forgetting, and this only we can only lie this in hindsight. Like nowadays we have predictions, but like earlier we could only see it in hindsight, like after it's happened. But things have always have a like an event, like a string of things happening in order. Because of that, this happened in this relation. So that butterfly effect it's called, like, so this thing one thing leads to another. So that is the point about which you were mentioning.
Yeah, in a way, but no, I'm not just talking about the butterfly effect, but yeah, beyond butterfly effect. Butterfly effect could be, very small effect causing a much larger effect elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, right.
But
But like
I'm
it's
also
like
talking about if a local something like butterfly effect, if a local air pollution can have a bigger climatic impact.
so it can, because see, like, again, obviously areas which have more industries, or where certain human factors are involved which cause more pollution. And like if you compare an area with let's say Madhya Pradesh, where there's like a completely forested area like northeastern states, obviously the human factors and the existing geographic factors play the most important role in this. But we need to also understand that if something, if Delhi has pollution, uska like you might not feel that in Himachal Pradesh air quality has gone that down, but it still goes down several points. And especially I live in Punjab, Haryana, like that this side. So here it gets affected. Like even our governments actually put in similar restrictions on firecrackers and burning and all these things which the Delhi government does, right? Because the problem in Delhi is it's nexus. So that most of the time what happens is because of wind patterns, whatever happens in the surrounding region goes into Delhi. Delhi neither the nexus of the wind, permanent wind streams. That is why Delhi. That is how Delhi receives rainfall. Because okay, if you look at it, the middle India states like Madhya Pradesh don't get a lot of rainfall. The reason for that reason being was the rain. Eastern cyclonic monsoon wind, something like that the name is. These winds go, one is eastern, one is western, and they come like this, like through the like this is a map of India, and they come like this, like in opposite direction to the coast. So the middle part gets very less rainfall, but these streams actually meet at Delhi. So whatever they have around, whatever they're carrying, so they just bring it over there, and then they go on further. And like again, and because after Delhi we have the mountain ranges. Aravalli is like very small. Aravalli is below 2000 at max. Its highest is 1700 something, if I'm not wrong. But like when we go to the Himalayas, that time these things, because they can't go above so much, so they start dropping. They start losing weight, and by that logic, by that way, they things get deposited one point. It's just that effect it has, but if people don't get it that time, because it's like getting collected. So right now, point one or two or three addition might not seem that much to you, but when it gets collected and becomes 100, it will be a problem for people in that area. Like like a river carries its sediments. Like if you follow that analogy.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so would anyone like to say anything on this? Anything to add or to ask? Okay. Sir, would you like to ask anything else?
No, I have questions, but I don't want to ask right now because it just seems to be taking too long. I want us to move on.
Okay. So moving on to the next round, actually, if there's a time foundation, we can actually leave it at 2 rounds. Everybody
Yeah,
will
let's
get to,
do 2 rounds only. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's take, okay, now, if do both of you have prepared your questions, Shaurya and Ishita?
Oh yes, I have.
Ishita?
Not yet, but I'll think of one very soon.
No, if you have not, then just let's leave that because everybody needs to have a chance at discussing. Okay, so as Shaurya already has the question prepared, so let's take Shaurya's question and let's move on to the next round where this Parinati and Ishita, you both will be discussing.
Right. Should I ask my question?
Okay, yeah. Ishita, are you ready?
Sure.
Parinati, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. after the first response goes off, I told this in the beginning actually before Rishita joined in. That is, after the first response of both the teams go off, you can ask questions as audiences. I cannot, but you can. Not the person who is actually, no, the person who is asking the question, he also can. Prayang, you also can, and sir, you also can, being the audiences. Okay. Okay. So shoot your question.
Yes, I think. Right. So, okay, like now we're discussing about Delhi and all that. So my question is around the Delhi odd even, there is a government odd even policy. So the question is, should the Delhi government's odd even policy or something similar to that be implemented throughout India or like on a nationwide scale? Should it be implemented or should it not be implemented is the question. So yeah, I believe everyone knows what the policy is, right? Do I need to give a context?
Uh, According to me, you might want to.
Okay, right, definitely. So the Delhi government, as we already discussed, Delhi has had very high pollution levels instead of time. When the AAP government came, right, in the first election, I believe it was something around 2015, I don't not remember, but something on those lines. It brought in a policy, unique policy, an odd even policy. For example, I have two cars. One is 8068 and one is 3067. So one ends in an odd, one is an odd number, one is an even number, right? Ending in that. So on Monday, I can only drive an odd car. Let's, for example, odd number only car I can drive. On Tuesday, I can only drive a car with an even number. Like, only cars which that have that kind of number. That's the point. So it is that basically. So, and it was like, because, if people that aim is people start using their own vehicle only 50% of the days. And like they can carpool or use public transport or like other ways of traveling basically. So that's the part base about it. And this should it be implemented on a nationwide scale? That's the question. So we'll have Pariniti and Ishita for the answering. I guess let's give Pariniti the chance to go first.
So, from what I've understood, from what I remember, to be honest, I think odd even policy came around in 2000, introduced around in 2016. If I'm correct. All right. So, the idea to allow only even numbered or odd number, or the even numbered cars with the number plate which have an even number being allowed, and the ones with the odd number. See, it has a lot of, the implementation part is pretty easy. Yeah, they can, each and every state can enforce the rule. Obviously, they should. All of them should, because the number of cars are increasing day by day. From what I remember, the if I compare the number of cars in 2016 and the number of cars in 2022, there has been a significant increase. The roads feel like they're pretty much jammed. Like I'm from Lucknow, so if I give an example of Lucknow, it's pretty much, in these coming 4 5 years, I've seen a very, massive increase in the number of cars. So yes, it is something, yeah, that which should definitely be implemented everywhere. But then again, if we talk about the rule should be enforced somewhere or not, since we're talking about India here, even if the rules, there are several rules. Yeah, we can impose this one also. We can say that yes, odd even policy has been implemented in Lucknow, just like it was in Delhi. Now the question around here comes at how do we actually manage that? Like, if we are gonna implement something like that, then too much of strictness and a very good set of observation skills are needed. In order that people are actually looking, because looking at the humongous number of cars, it is very difficult to understand that the people owning 2 3 cars, if they're using their odd ones on the correct days or the ones with the even ones on the correct days. So it requires a lot of technicality. Since we don't have any existing technologies to monitor it, we are officially very dependent on the human resources. And from what I have noticed and from what I feel personally, that implementation would really be very, very difficult for now. As for now, what the scenario is, obviously, yes, it can be, but the real implementation, like, I don't know if it's still prevalent in Delhi right now. But maybe if we talk about, if I think about that, if it will be implemented into my own city, then I really don't think it would be very successful looking at the current. I mean, they're not even able to maintain proper traffic rules. They're not even, well, the challan is not being cut for the people who are making the actual rules. Two-wheelers, people riding two-wheelers are not wearing helmets. So this is something too far-fetched of things to be expected from the traffic police to actually track people's number plates to check if they're odd or even. So yeah, that's my point.
Right.
Ishita, you go next.
Yeah, Ishita, you
Okay,
can.
as far as I remember, the odd even poll, I don't think it is being implemented now, is it? It is not,
I
right?
don't think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it has been called off.
Yeah, so I think the reports that came out after this, I think there was one report by CPCB that there was no significant reduction in the pollution at that point when it was implemented. But of course, we cannot attribute it to the success or failure of the policy because it was implemented in the winter season where at that time the density of the air and also the stubble burning adding to the pollution of Delhi, it could not be discounted whether it was a success or not. And eventually, the government, our government itself, ended up abandoning the entire scheme. So I think before going to all India level, when in Delhi itself it is questionable whether it was a success or not, we should not be going there. And what we should be doing to take off vehicles off the road is improving our public transport system first. Because I know for a fact that it created problems for a lot of people. Banning one vehicle, I mean, middle class people have one vehicle, and if you ban it, and if you do not have a good backup of public transportation system, it becomes difficult for some people to afford cabs and autos. So the government should be focusing on having a robust public transportation system, and before going taking this to an all India level, because the veracity of it is also not confirmed as of now. So I believe that no, first we have to confirm whether it was a success or not, and then only we can go to all India level. And we have alternate policies to implement first, then going for odd even policy.
Right. Maniti, do you have any counter?
No, I completely agree with Shiva.
That's great. And then the audience, Priyank, Nitin sir.
Yeah, I have a counter. You both said that the policy should be implemented at the national level, right? You agree to it. But do you really think it would be effective? Like, I would give you a fact. In Delhi, the pollution, the vehicular pollution is around about 30 to 40%. And when you talk about the India's average, it stands at nearly 7 to 8%. You need to check out the dynamics. So, will you still stay with the idea of it being implemented?
Right. Nitin,
Priyank, please repeat. I could not hear a word he said. Or somebody, Victoria, please repeat what he said.
okay, Priyank, you want to only explain it once or
Ishita, am I audible to you right now?
Yeah, a little bit. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
please go.
I said कि the Delhi's vehicular pollution contributes around about 30 to 40%, while for the India average it stands at 7 to 8%.
Yes.
So will you still stand with your viewpoint of its implementation given the inconvenience it causes?
hmm,
The
okay.
second part was तो ऐसा बोला कि क्या हमें ये इंडिया लेवल ले जाना चाहिए.
Uh,
Oh, no,
like
I
we
did not
still,
say we should take it India level. I
no,
said we
yeah,
have
same.
policies to implement.
Right. Huh. You can have different views, right? That is the part of it. Nitin sir, you have a point or like view?
No, actually, I missed what Ishita said. Um, Ishita, did you were you in favor or not in favor of odd even?
Sir, I said that do not have reliable reports, analysis reports that whether it was a success or not, and the government, our government itself, ended up abandoning it. And therefore, I believe that before we finally deciding that it was a success, we should not take it to all India level, and we should first focus on making our public transport system more robust to make sure that cars are off the road and people use public transportation system instead of going for odd.
Yeah.
Right, definitely.
So, sir, do you have anything to ask?
Lots of things, but again, maybe not completely in this context. But I have a lot of views about these things, the impact on air pollution. What can be done about the traffic. The way some of the other countries have done it by increasing taxation. Um, Countries have increased um, even entry fee to certain areas which are causing higher pollution because of traffic, cars and all. Some countries, the tax on cars has been increased by 300% to reduce the car, and that particular tax is being used to improve public infrastructure. So, it's also a chicken and egg situation to say, first improve the public infrastructure and then reduce the cars. But, where does the money for public infrastructure also come from? So, I think
Sir,
it may be an
I think,
oversimplification.
sir, I think Delhi is also implementing that diesel cars that are 10 years old and petrol cars that are 15 years old, they will have to pay a heavy fine and they are not operable. And especially that we have shifted to, I think, Bharat stage 4 or
The
6
the
of
Supreme
our
had up
engine
a
system.
judgment
So
saying you can't sell similar vehicles like diesel and petrol buses or something like that, trucks or buses, something on that, like heavy transport vehicles which operate on diesel,
which
like.
are 10 years older and petrol which are 15 years older, you cannot operate in Delhi and you have to pay extra fine. I think for parking spaces also, I think in Delhi people have you have to show a parking space before buying a car. These things are being implemented, and
Not in
no,
that, not
it's
in
not
Delhi, it's
okay.
in
It
some
doesn't.
other country. Not in Delhi though. The park based thing is now some other country. I read up about it. It's not in Delhi though, as far as I know.
Again, something I heard something of this sort.
Mm.
So taxation part is being done in Delhi also
Right. So the other thing
for
which
the
is
vehicles
very
which are more polluting than.
Yeah, the other thing which is very interesting, I think, for us to explore is the effect of this air pollution. We are talking about the particulate matter or the numbers that reach 300 or 75 in different places. Um, I believe that that's only talking about PM25, PM 2.5 and above, and it's not talking about below that. But what is the composition of those particulate matters is also interesting to understand. I think the whole health impact of the air pollution is very less understood, even amongst the medical fraternity. Uh, a lot of the doctors would just simply say that there's more allergies that have developed. People have become more asthmatic because of the nature of air. Um, but what is really happening? What is really causing it? I mean, are we saying that the particulate matter that we are not measuring but is out there is not causing any health effect, or a lot of the health condition in general which is deteriorating, is that not because of poor quality of air? So I'm saying, I think the discussion today has been very interesting start, but there is a lot more to be explored deeper within the air pollution space, and that's what I would encourage Atrey to help to uh, navigate us through in the coming days, um, to be able to explore and understand, to help all the Wongsters also understand those aspects, to help us improve their.
Sir, that is exactly what I was thinking, how the discussion was going. So many new facets were coming up where we can actually discuss rather than just discussing on the basic things like what factors cause air pollution and what can we do about it, like the ones that we have been used to. So many new facets are coming up on these common areas. So we might be wanting to discuss these more and more in detail, and we would like all of our participants' perspectives, not only the ones present here, as well as the ones who are not present here, as well as an expert's perspective, as well as our perspective, the new generation. as well as our Vongsters. So it will be a very nice topic to discuss on, as well as equally very important.
अब नंबर दे दो सबको आतरी तीनों टीम्स को.
Okay, I just hope Parinati you don't have anything else to say.
No, I don't.
Okay. So am I supposed to do this here only?
You want to do that later? Do your calculations. You can also come back later. If you're ready now, you can announce it now.
I might want to. And is there like a necessary thing to announce a winner or a high scorer?
Points did they name, because points will keep getting added to the teams.
Yeah,
These three teams.
somewhat, because somewhat two people are getting somewhat very close to each other, or maybe similar to each other. So
yeah, that's all right. Just announce the
that's all right.
points. Yeah, you can also do it in the group. You don't have to do it now.
Yeah,
Just
I'll do it in the group.
right. Okay.
Okay, so with this, I guess nobody else has to say anything on this right now, as of
I
now.
could not ask my question. I thought of good questions, but okay, I'll ask in the next session.
Yeah, Ishita will have a lot more interactive sessions like this. a lot,
Yeah, but
lot
Ishita is
more.
not going to be with us for that long unless she decides to participate while doing her MBA.
Oh, okay. I guess you're
She's here
going
for
to be
another
here
2
for the
weeks.
next week.
2
Yes.
weeks, yeah, I think.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Okay, I'll arrange something for you to ask questions in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this.
Thank you, Atri. Thank you so much for your diligence to make this happen. And Pari and Shaurya and Nishita, for making this possible. This was otherwise going to be our first non-event on an event day, so that's been averted. Thanks for coming, Priyank. And I hope you're beginning to get a sense. I don't know if you have seen any of the other recordings, but this will help you also absorb what the events are about.
Yes, sir. Thank you to Pariniti, Shaurya, Ishita, mainly because you made this happen. This was my first event that I am hosting, as well as I'm the SPOC, as well as I'm the collab. So I was very tensed. Thank you for making this happen. If this wouldn't have happened, my morale would gone very low. So thanks for making this happen. And thanks, Prayank, for being there since the entire thing. Thank you, sir, for also being there. Thank you very much, guys. This was a great event.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Astrid. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.
Right, bye.